Okay, perfect. So, welcome everyone to another weekly grow. Um, for those of you who are new, Grow, Get Ready with Entrepreneurs is a gathering of like minded entrepreneurs interested in building their brand through networking and sharing of ideas and best practices. As much as there will be a focus on topics related to marketing, our goal is to take a holistic approach to building a sustainable business to support our people, planet, and profits. If you are new here and you haven't connected with Laura or myself yet, please do. All of our social media accounts are listed here, as well as our Facebook group in the bottom left-hand corner, and then the top right-hand corner if you want to follow along with Acorn Studio. Please do that as well. What we're going to be going over today is one, what is Facebook community building, defining your brand voice, how to create engaging content for Facebook, how to utilize Facebook groups, specific engagement techniques for Facebook, and then user-generated content. So what is Facebook community building? Facebook community building involves fostering a space where users can connect, engage, and interact around shared interests or goals. Those of you who have been on Facebook, I mean, the concept of Facebook is not really new. So unlike merely increasing your follower count, which is a quantitative measure of reach, community building is qualitative process. It emphasizes fostering relationships, encouraging discussion, and creating a sense of belonging among members. So it's more than just the follower count. It's actually building people that want to be there with you. A well-built community on Facebook can serve as a support network, a place for knowledge sharing, and a hub for collaboration. Moreover, it can enhance brand loyalty and create advocates who actively contribute to the growth and vibrancy of the community. And why is it important? Facebook lies in its ability to create deeper connections with your audience, facilitating a two-way dialogue that can lead to more meaningful engagement and a richer understanding of your audience's needs and preferences. So we learned a little bit about Facebook, what community building is. Now we're actually going to talk about defining your brand voice and why it's important. So what does brand voice mean? Think of it as giving your brand its own cool personality that people can really vibe with. It's super important because it helps you it helps your brand pop and stand out in the bustling world of social media, because there's so many people on social media. You really want to make sure that you are standing out and people recognize you when they see your content come through. Plus, having a clear and consistent voice can help build trust and bonds with your audience, making them more likely to hang around and actually, engage with the stuff that you're posting. So why do you need a brand voice for Facebook? And I've narrowed it down to about 6 reasons why you need it. There are definitely more. Identity and recognition. So a brand voice helps you stand out in the crowded Facebook scene, giving your brand a unique personality. 2, trust and loyalty. Consistent communication builds trust. So your audience knows what to expect from you, making them more likely to stick around and wait for more. Connecting on a personal level. A distinct brand voice helps you connect emotionally with your audience, making your brand feel more like a person than just a business and just a brand there to sell something. Show that personality behind the brand. Boost engagement. So when your voice resonates with your audience, they're more likely to actually engage with your posts and your content, increasing your reach and influence on the platform. Unified messaging. So consistent communication builds trust. Your audience knows what to expect from you, making them more likely to stick around. And then guideline for content. So having a brand voice serves as a handy guide for crafting content, ensuring consistency and quality in everything you post. If you have seen some of our past sessions before, we have gone over, how to create a social media strategy, Facebook being a social media platform. It's a really good exercise to go through. We did a session on it a couple weeks ago. That video is on our YouTube, and I'll show the QR code later, We do also have a social media strategy template and worksheet available that will go through how to define your voice and so much more. The QR code is in the right-hand corner there. Laura, if you could put a link to it in the chat as well, and then we'll show it again at the end. How to create engaging content for Facebook. I mean, I'm sure this is why most of us are here today. So what does engaging actually mean? So when we talk about the word engaging and engaging content, we're basically talking about the stuff that grabs people's attention and gets them involved. It's the kind of content that sparks conversation, gets a ton of likes, shares, and comments. It's all about creating a buzz and making people want to jump in and be a part of the stuff that you are posting and the actual discussion that's going on within your brand. So how are we going to create engaging content? One, we're going to be authentic. So we're going to share real stories and experiences that resonate with your audience. Again, showing that you actually are a person and not just a robot creating a brand. We're going to create visual appeal. So create eye-catching images and videos to grab the attention. Especially with all of the content that's put out these days, we really want to make sure that, with the split second that we have in front of somebody's eyes, that we're actually grabbing their attention and making them want to stick around. We're also going to ask questions. This is a great way to stir up some interesting conversations and get to know your audience better. We're going to create interactive content like polls and quizzes, especially in Facebook stories. We're going to create content that's timely and relevant. So we're going to share content that's in tune with current events or trending topics that can keep the conversation fresh and relevant. I'm not saying that you have to do this all the time, and definitely only create timely content when it does resonate with your strategy and with your brand. We're also going to create value-driven content on top of that. So we're going to share tips, how-tos, insights that offer value to your audience. We're going to encourage user-generated content. We will talk a little bit more about that afterwards, but we're going to get your audience involved by encouraging them to share their own stories or creations. It builds a sense of community engagement. We're also going to host live videos, and I know some of you are probably cringing when I say that, but hosting live videos allows you to connect with your audience in real time. And then when you are creating content and you're creating your plan and your schedule, consistency is key. And I will say that all the time, every time, but keeping a steady flow of content coming in, it helps keep your audience engaged and coming back for more and letting them know that you are active in the community that you are trying to build. And then out of all of that too, whenever you're creating content, please make sure you have a call to action. It's hard to get people engaged with your content if you're not telling them what to do next. So creating a call to action in your posts is encourage your audience to engage, to share, comment, go over here, ask them questions, all of that kind of stuff. So try not to get them to think too much about, how you want them to engage. Tell them exactly what you want them to do. So Facebook groups is a huge part of building a Facebook community, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. So how are we going to utilize Facebook groups and how we're going to create a super engaging Facebook group? Anybody can create a Facebook group, they can set it up, but how are we going to make it long lasting and actually engaging for your audience? So first, we're going to make sure that the group that we created is a safe space. So make your group a place where everyone feels safe to share their thoughts and ideas. Keep it friendly and inclusive. Engagement in your group is also key. So keep the ball rolling with regular posts that encourage members to chat, share, and connect. Exclusive content. This is a really good one. So you can treat your members to exclusive content that they won't find anywhere else, especially on your public page. It's a great way to make them feel special and talk about your group and encourage to invite other people to your group. It makes people just want to be a part of it. You can host events. So spice things up by hosting virtual events, Q&As, webinars. It's a great way to bring the community together. You can encourage peer-to-peer help. So foster a community spirit by encouraging members to help each other out with advice, tips, or feedback. Moderation matters. So keep an eye on the group, please, to ensure that the discussion stays positive and respectful. A little moderation goes a long way. If you do have a lot of people in the group, you can potentially bring in other people to help with the moderation, just, make sure everything is staying, where you want it to be. For example, in our Facebook group, Laura and I are both admins. So we both watch to make sure that everything is staying good and how we want it. Feedback loop. So create a feedback loop by asking members' opinions and suggestions. It helps in making the group more interactive and member-centric. And then you can add promotions with a personal touch. So if you're promoting something, add a personal touch to make it more relatable and less salesy. A lot of the times people join Facebook group because they want to be part of the community and they don't really want to be sold to. That doesn't mean you can't sell, but speak to them as a community member, not as a customer or like a future client. It's like add that personal touch so it's not coming off so promotional. So here's a question. So should you start a Facebook group or should you just focus on showing up into other Facebook groups? Is it better to just hang out in other groups or take that plunge and start your own? Well, it really all depends on the goals and resources that you have. So keeping in mind that starting your own group can be a fantastic way to build a tight-knit community around your brand, but it does take effort to keep things rolling, especially when it comes to moderating. If it does get really big, sometimes it could get out of hand if you don't have the resources to help you. On the other hand, joining existing groups can be a more relaxed way to connect with potential customers and learn more about the industry. You can also join multiple Facebook groups that might be in the similar industry and have different audiences. It's a good way to kind of get into something that has already grown. Now, the next question is, if you are joining these other Facebook groups, how are you supposed to show up? Do you show up as your business or do you show up as your personal account, as an influencer? So when it comes to showing up in Facebook groups, you've got a couple options. Like I said, you can show up as your business account to share expert advice and insights. This can be a great way to build your brand's authority. Or you can use your personal account to engage on a more personal level in a casual manner, which can sometimes create deeper connections. If you are unsure how you want to show up, think about your audience and how they react to other brands. You can also research the group to see if businesses are engaging as businesses or if they're just showing up as individuals. That part might take a little bit longer because you actually have to get into the groups, and especially if they're private. In my personal experience, I do find most people show up in Facebook groups on a more personal level because they want to hear from humans and actual people. Whereas if you show up in businesses, you don't really know who's behind it. This can be different. And if you do find that there is Facebook groups with more businesses in it than actual people, that's a different story. But like I said, it does take a little bit of research, a little bit of time you getting to know your audience. But it doesn't hurt to play around. So now we're going to talk about engagement techniques for Facebook. So different ways that you can actually show up on Facebook, and keeping in mind that, it's not just about posting updates. It is creating a two-way street where you and your audience can really connect. And we're going to talk about some cool ways that you can do that. So different ways that you can engage on Facebook. There are a whole bunch. I've kind of narrowed it down to a few. So comments and replies. So jumping into the comment section, replying to people that have left comments on your posts and maybe commenting on other posts that are relevant to your industry. Likes and reactions. This is a super, super easy engagement technique. Just liking posts, liking comments, getting into that notification section. You can share user content. So this is where we get into that UGC. So share content created by your followers or other relevant content in your niche. It's a great way to foster community spirit and showing that it's not all about you. It actually is about this community that you are trying to build. And hosting live videos. So go live, real-time interactions with your audience. It's a great way to engage and build personal connections. Story engagement. So use Facebook stories to share quick updates, behind the scenes, glimpse, or host a Q&A. If your audience is primarily on Instagram and you are using Instagram as your primary account and Facebook as your secondary, you can share stories within both platforms. I do personally find it a lot easier to share from Instagram over to Facebook. But I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't go in natively, which I think would probably be a really good exercise to do. Collaborative posts. So collaborate with other brands or influencers for joint Facebook posts or events to engage a wider audience. Groups participation. So actively participate in Facebook groups like we just talked about. Share your expertise and engage in discussions. And then messenger engagement. Facebook Messenger, especially for personalized engagement, really great place to utilize for customer support, to nurture relationships, have conversations that are outside of the comment section, and really have that one-to-one time with your audience. So now we're going to talk a little bit about user-generated content. For those of you who don't know what user-generated content is, or UGC, it's content created by people who basically love your brand, hopefully, like photos, reviews, etc. So your followers who are essentially acting as brand ambassadors and want to share their love for your product or service with the world, giving a genuine and personal touch to your brand promotion. So there's different types of UGC, especially for Facebook. So photos is one of them. People sharing their photos, using your product, or talking about, or like sharing their experience with your service. It's a great visual and personal touch. Videos and tutorials. So users creating videos and tutorials, using your product, sharing their experience, how-tos. Reviews and testimonials. So genuine reviews, when they're sharing their positive experiences with your brand, or even like giving feedback, which is a really great one. Q&A sessions, so hosting Q&A sessions where users can share their insights, tips, or ask questions about your product. Blog posts, so users, I do find, can, especially on Facebook, are sharing blog posts about their experience with your product or your service, and then sharing it to Facebook. And then this is a great way for you to reshare that content. Community discussions. These are groups where users, share their experience and advice related to your brand. So user-generated content is great, especially, when it comes to saving time. Instead of you having to create that content, and this is really you building up that community. So how do we get this UGC, especially on Facebook? We want to encourage sharing. So simply ask your followers to share their experience with your products through photos, videos, or reviews. You can host contests and challenges that encourage users to create content about your brand. When you do get user-generated content, feature that content. So regularly featured user-generated content on your page shows appreciation, and it actually can help encourage others to share as well. Collaborative campaigns. This is great when you're collaborating with your audience and involve them in the content creation process. Create a branded hashtag. I know on Instagram it's a little bit easier to follow hashtags than it is Facebook. That doesn't mean that you can't create one, especially on Facebook, and then follow along with that one. And encourage users to use it, and then it's a great way for you to track to see how many people are actually using it and the content they're creating, because they might forget to tag you in it, but if they use the hashtag, it's a great way to track it. Feedback and reviews. So encourage users to leave feedback and testimonials, and share these on your page to help build trust and encourage more user-generated content. So we've talked about a lot of things. And like I mentioned before, we do have a social media strategy template as well as a social media calendar template, which is awesome. And Laura and I have used this for many clients. There are a couple of QR codes here. The one in the bottom center, that one is for the social media strategy template. as well as all of our other resources in the QR code on the right-hand side. We have a whole bunch, especially related to social media and Instagram, if that is also another platform that you use. I do encourage you to go through this template because it works through everything that we talked about and helps with planning and finding your voice and figuring out your next steps with Facebook. If you did miss our session on how to create a social media strategy, check out our video on YouTube. QR code is in the bottom right-hand corner. This one is really great. It's like less than 25-minute long video. I basically go through that entire template that we have. It's awesome. And then talking about Facebook groups, join our Facebook group. This is something that we have been wanting to build. And we actually are practicing what we preach when it comes to, being super interactive and encouraging people to join this group, join a community where, we can have conversations with each other and you can post questions and we can talk about really cool topics related to marketing or even business or anything like that. So follow the QR code, join our group. It's a really good time.